I'm here today with Vijay, member of our Emerging Managers Network. It's a network that we're launching. It's very much the core of why AIM exists, frankly, to ensure that Asian American founded funds have the opportunity for networking and support and growth together. So with that, Vijay, I know you have a PE fund. Tell us about your business model, what you're trying to get done with your fund.
Sure. So in terms of ARCView, I like to start by saying it stands for Andrew, Reese, Karina. So you've heard of many ARCs, many views, but probably not this one. And I start there because it gives you a sense of what we're building in the same way.
Who's Andrew, Reese, and Karina?
So Karina's my daughter. Andrew and Reese are the firstborn children of my two co-founders. And it kind of shows you what we're building because in the same way our parents came to the U.S. For better opportunity for their next generation, we're trying to build a better future for our next generation, not only in terms of our family, but in terms of the companies we partner with, the communities we serve, the founders we choose to invest with. And so ARCView Capital is effectively a private equity fund that's looking to invest in diversity-oriented businesses. We're targeting a $200 to $250 million raise, and we've kind of closed on half of that so far.
That's great. So you're focused on minority-owned businesses. Do you find that there are many firms out there that are focused on that?
So when we surveyed the landscape of private equity firms, we were embarrassed to say that we did not even know minority businesses existed. So effectively, minority businesses are a large part of the U.S. economy, but 99% of private equity funds do not focus on investing in minority businesses. And the reason is if traditional private equity funds invest in minority businesses, those businesses would lose that certification. So we spent the first 6 months of our efforts getting certified as a minority business enterprise. And so we have strategic and unique capital for these minority businesses to really scale and grow while maintaining that certification.
So if a larger institution wanted to co-invest with you, that particular company would not lose their minority-owned status. That's kind of the
That's
thinking?
right. So if you're not minority certified in a private equity fund, it's challenging to invest in minority businesses, which is largely why they're excluded from the investment process. But if a LP were to come through our fund and invest in a minority business, that would retain that certification.
I mean, we're all for more minority-owned businesses, more women-owned businesses, but from that particular business owner's perspective, why do they care? Why do they care that they continue to be a minority-owned business or not?
So there's a huge trend, and you covered this in terms of the trends of ESG. There's a huge trend towards the S in ESG, towards supplier diversity. And so large corporations, the Fortune 100, Fortune 1000, they want to diversify their supply chains, not only because it makes for a more resilient business model, but because it's more aligned with their customers. As the US becomes majority minority and the customer base becomes majority minority, companies positioned for that demographic shift are going to be well positioned to succeed long term. And we're going to provide capital to the suppliers that are diverse and help companies look like their end customers.
Yeah, that's a terrific strategy, and I think folks are not focused on that enough. And I'm glad your firm is sort of right in the middle of that effort, particularly in the Asian American community. As you know, like small businesses are huge drivers of economic growth for the community, and so to the extent that we can support that, I think is a great thing. As you launched your fund, you've raised half of it so far. How did you go about doing that? I mean, it's always a challenge raising your first fund, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So where do I start? But in terms of how we raised money for our first close, we had the benefit of working for a family office. Me and my two co-founders had worked there for a decade. The family office was called Ziff Brothers Investments. That firm had a long history of backing successful emerging managers. And so they capitalized us with our first close. And then building on that, what we did was we went out and made investments. So one of the things that LPs want to see is good traction and early successes before coming into a final close. And so rather than beat our heads against a Zoom screen during COVID, we went out and did 2 deals that we think showcase what minority business can do and what we can originate. And that brought along co-investors and other investors into the fund.
The 2 firms that you pilot this with or initially launched it with, what kind of businesses were they?
So the first investment we made was in a minority bank. So we surveyed the landscape of banks, and much like the asset management industry, which lacks in diversity, the commercial banking industry is probably the second worst when it comes to diversity. So less than 3% of banks in the US are minority owned. So we capitalized a bank out in LA called Genesis Bank that serves a majority minority community, and that comes with a lot of tax and regulatory credits and a lot of support from the regulators to launch the bank.
Do you know much about the banking industry that you can jump into that? As you say, it's highly regulated. There's a lot of headache involved in it.
Yeah, so fortunately, we've had some good experience in the past with banking, coming out of the global financial crisis, backing and capitalizing different financial institutions. And we also partnered with a CEO and executive team that we had backed while at Ziff Brothers to launch this new bank.
Well, let me turn now to AIM's Emerging Managers Network. It is something that we have done at our conference, but this is an effort to create a more of an ongoing way to support emerging managers, diverse and emerging managers in our network through, supporting, sharing ideas, sharing challenges, sharing solutions, obviously, and bringing in speakers and other folks to help you and your colleagues grow. What are you hoping to get out of the network yourself?
Yeah, so I think it goes both ways. So not only has AIM been extremely helpful in us building our network, getting introduced to potential LPs, getting introduced to other potential co-investors and other fund managers, but we also like to pay it forward. And so in the same way, kind of we were in a room kind of brainstorming and whiteboarding what the strategy for ArcView would be, we want to help the next generation of leaders, the next generation of fund managers really launch their business. So whatever help we can provide by sharing our mistakes along the way, I think we want to pay that forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. We can learn from each other as a group. Sometimes it's a lonely road setting up these funds. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have a group of people, peers, that are in similarly situated positions, sort of sharing ideas and thoughts. We're also, within this network, we're going to be bringing in sort of guest speakers and experts on a regular basis so we can pick their brain a little bit. But you also, I know you have a hard time kind of getting the word out about the fund, like sort of outside validation and all of those things. What can AIM do to support that?
Yeah, I think AIM can help in a number of ways. So not only introductions to potential LPs, whether it's today or 10 years down the road, but I also think building a community of advisors, lawyers, tax accountants, everything that goes into the business of investing, which are 2 different things. We've focused 90% of our time on investing, but now as entrepreneurs, we have to build a business. And I think the last thing could be even introductions to companies that want and need funding from other like-minded investors to really help grow and scale their business. So not only could AIM be helpful to the investment management industry, but more broadly to the economy.
You've really brought this idea to the table to support not only yourselves, but other emerging managers out there. So, what I would ask everyone to do is if you're interested in being part of the Emerging Managers Network, please reach out to us. Hopefully they can call on you as well in terms of your experience. But it's a great group of people that we're trying to support here. So anyway, thank you so much for your time, the work that you do. I know you are a member. One day, I'm hopeful that you'll be our top tier sponsor because you'll be so successful. But in the meantime, good luck with all the work that you're doing and the fundraising you're going through.
Thank you.